sword and shield, I'm going to make a couple of assumptions that people, that you guys, all know how to fight. This isn't a class on how to throw shots or things like that. It's about things to add to your game to enhance it beyond what may have been successful for you, in the early stages of your career. So the topics I'm going to cover are lateral movement. We'll talk about that. Most fighting is in a line. Even at high-level fighters fight in a line. But by adding dimensions left and right, we can greatly enhance your game. Offside attacks, committed offside attacks, and fakes. So, has anybody read Strategy? A book called Strategy by Liddell Hart? Okay. Basically, what it comes down to is combat in general, in scale, in one-on-one or large scale. Combat is deception. You win not by throwing yourself at your opponent. You win by convincing your opponent that you're going to do something and then do something else. Because, frontal assaults work sometimes, but most of the time you're going to pay a price. And in this game, that price only has to be one hit, one step or something, and you lose. So, being deceptive in what you're trying to do is key to success. You'll note that most high-level fighters between high-level opponents in this game end when somebody makes a mistake and somebody capitalizes. So the other part of this is not bludgeoning your way through your opponent, but by increase the number of opportunities your opponent has to make a mistake. And when he makes that mistake, to be able to capitalize. So, one of the things, like I was saying before, fighting in general, people fight in a line. So you're fighting at each other, something happens, you back off. And then you come back in, and you back off. And the lateral movement is what one thing I want to talk about here is not just stepping on the line directly away from your opponent, but to step on the angles to increase, to change the angles of your shots opportunity. So it's obviously slow, but you have a shield. So if your opponent being able to move, when I'm talking about moving on 45, so we're talking about moving forward, left, or right to your opponent. So if he comes straight at me, and he's expecting me to be here, and I don't want to be here, if I take a step, just all I'm doing is taking a step forward on the side. Now, I'm not where he expects me to be, and I have all sorts of targets I can shoot at and the same thing, like if I come to step towards me, and depending on where I am relative to him, it might be better to step on this side. But obviously, this is a good choice. But I see a lot of right brain and right fight end up, you're butting up against each other. You're like this. You get that inside shot, but never does it. Almost never gets that tail on head cut up against your opponent. Why is that? Because what happens is he's out here, and when they take a step, he steps and throws the offside down to his opponent's body. So what I'm suggesting is, if you have a Pell, a lot of people don't push Pell work because people say that your opponent doesn't stand still, but it gives a focus to your work. So, like if I'm going to ask this to stand still. So, like if I want to practice this at home, you have a Pel, whatever it is, and just practice the poker. And then just practice taking this down and throwing a shot. Practice, put yourself into various positions relative to the Pel and throw the shot. And I'm not talking about throwing it like once or twice. You throw it 20 times, you throw it 30 times. Throw it until you can't lift your arms. And then rest, go to another motion and do it again 30 times. One of the best fighters ever in our game, Stefan Von Dresden, he got that way through pelvic. I mean, going through those motions, he goes through the motions so many times that when something presents itself, your body just automatically knows what to do. So, now the thing is that you don't only have, like I was showing you how to take a 45 on the defense side. You can also attack that. So if I'm outside and I want to attack him, if I just step in, just for presentation purposes. So I step straight in as a lefty, I'm opening up my entire arm side to attack. It means it's ready for an advantage. But if I step on the 45, now my shield is seen like this. And if I step, so on the attack, if I step to this side, I take a step, I roll my body this way, and now I'm protected, and I can still strike. Now the thing is that once you get yourself into this position, let's say you get yourself in this position and you throw your shot and the fight doesn't end, what can you do? Because from this position, I'm really vulnerable to the outside shot. Well, the idea is that once you take that step, well, what are your options? You can back up. The problem there is that over here, my head is still in target zone all this time when I start trying to back up. Increase the chance of escape. If I step here and I step through, that's an option. But I'm still, my head is still in target. So, what you want to do is when you take this step, you want to do is roll here. Because once, so from here, back in my guard, and theoretically your guard is a position. So the footwork would be like, if I'm attacking him with a wrap, you'll both throw the shot, let's say it doesn't kill him, step. Now I'm safe. And the same thing, on this side, if I go step and I throw a shot and blocks it, now if I feel uncomfortable, I just rotate out. Now I'm safe. So the idea is to not just no linear motion. You can practice this drill, like we take 45, and you'll see going through this motion where you practice like rolling your feet and like kind of gliding step to step. So that you feel the idea, you get the idea of swinging your weight around on one foot, pivoting to the other, pivoting to the other, like doing in front of the Pel works for me. You can also feel in front of a Pel when you do something, you can kind of tell what feels natural. What do I want to do from here? I can throw the offside, or I can step and throw a trailing shot, depending on what my opponent is. So, just add that angle, 45, lateral movement. Now, like I was saying, the other thing I was saying at the beginning of the class was fakes. Combat is deception, getting your opponent to believe something. Now, once your opponent believes that you're going to do something, that say you're in guard, you throw a shot, and you block. And you're throw a shot, and you block. Now, what happens if I boom, and then throw the opposite? So, like, you want to, like I said, convince your opponent that you're going to do something, and then do something else. If you, like, I'm a lefty, right? So everybody knows lefties throw wraps. So if I take a step like I'm going to throw a wrap, and then his defense shifts to protect the wrap, shifts, and then I come back. And so that while I'm moving goes into a big wrap, and then it comes back up, and then I can block him in the back of the head and defend the wrap. So that's another, you can also do that at a tell, obviously. You know, practice going through those motions on the 45, stepping. So, anybody have any comment or questions so far? I'm kind of blowing through stuff.
Grace,
yep.
Would you also talk a little bit more with pel work about, in doing pel work, should you just go out there with the sword, or should you have your equipment on?
When I do pel work, the idea is to teach my arm and shoulders and such what to do. I don't need armor on to teach myself that. So I wear my forearm protection. You know, if you wear armor on your shield arm, wear it. If you know, I'm worried about my arm, so like I wear my gloves obviously.
One of the things Stefan said to me was the same thing. His sword's hanging out there. If he walks by that bell, he's going to hit it at least once or twice. But then he'll change off it. Again, he said it's that body mechanics thing.
But you should have your shield.
Yeah, you need your shield. So when you take the step and you want to see what targets are open to you, if you don't have your shield with you, you won't know what's really going to be available when you go into a fight. So now obviously shield styles are going to dictate some of what you're going to do. I mean, as a kite, some of what we do with the kites is applicable to center grips. I'm not, you know, heaters. I mean, you can still, you know, move your arm. I mean, we're not reliant on. We don't use this point the way heaters do. But actually, I like this. I like the way this feels. Better keep an eye on it. Well, no, because. I mean, well, the thing is, I'm trying to transition to a round, and I mean, sorry.
Yeah, but if you're using a pointed kite like this, which is huge, fighting over the top gets much more difficult than it would be for that.
Yeah, my kite has a less pronounced point than that. I didn't want to get into like details as to like the differences between shield styles, but like. You know, kites, we string our kites mostly like that. Like, your arm is almost horizontal, so that way, like, you can hold it out like think of it like a hockey goalie. You hold the shield away from your body, and so it presents a much bigger target to your opponent. And then, so that when you step, and you can hold it like, I'll try to do something like, I can hide my movements. And you can do this probably with any shield style. So, like, I keep my hand back behind the edge of my shield. And you can do that around and such. So that basically he can't see the beginning of the shot. He can only see my shoulders and my body moving, but he can't really see what I'm going to do as a movement. Like, if I'm out like this and I start on the outside, you'll see it coming around there. But if I hold my guard, you know, my basket behind the edge of my shield, you won't see the initial motion. So when I take the step and I dip the shoulder, I'm selling the wrap, but then you'll go by the wrap. But if you see my arm up like this, you'll know that I'm getting ready to pop. So holding your shield, I mean, even with heaters, you can, I don't know, what would you say, Your Excellency? Or Sir Pippin, I mean, you guys fight with heaters. do you protect your basket or hide your basket behind the edge of your shield, or?
Yeah, actually, I'm typically here. Well, I'm a funky fighter, so I'm out here.
Okay.
So I'm using this tip to punch and to catch. And that's why I like just a little, I don't need a severe kite, just a little bit to catch, you know, back here. But when I fought with just a heater, that was the same thing. I mean, you're rolling this back, you're going to have to use that point, you know, because you don't have it with the heater.
Okay. Yeah. So you're like, so you have your point down? Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, you're going forward.
We can talk about why that is too. Okay. Feel like. Okay. Actually,
I'm working range. I mean, I'm using this as a distance thing for me.
So you keep him away from you.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's. I mean, actually, it brings up a good point. I hadn't even thought about really. Is you see a lot of people going goofy foot. The question is, why is that? Well, actually, I'll demonstrate to you. So. Let me get my guard. I'm just going to. So, there I am. Now, I'm in my guard, and I'm this far away from it. Now, I shift my feet. Probably get close to being the same. And I go pick it out. But 6 inches farther away from him, and I did nothing. I was shift my feet. So, this is a Luke Cannon thing, and so it's a style thing. I'm not suggesting that it's meant for everybody, but the reason Luke Cannon fights goofy foot, the reason I fight primarily is to put in range. You know, I have a long sword. From here, I can be even a little bit farther away, and it's still weak. So, we cover tricks a little bit. So, like I was saying, you want to deceive your opponent into believing something. The cool thing about fakes is that the higher level fighters will often fall for them more than the lower level fighters. Because the lower level fighter will see a fake and not know what they're looking at.
Remember that from this 25?
Somebody throws a shoulder fake, and a newer fighter will say, okay, whatever, and not react to it at all. Where the higher level fights, when they like emotion, little bits of motion can be the difference between winning and losing. You know, you see that shoulder fake, high level fighter's going to react one way or the other. You might react defensively and get out, you might do something else. You're more likely to react to it. The thing that the key to the fake is selling. Meaning, if you just twitch, nobody's going to believe that you're doing anything. But you need to do something to convince them that you are actually going to throw the shot. The emotion doesn't have to be big. Like if they get used to you throwing that, a flat snap or an offside, 1-2 combo, if you then twitch the shoulder in that direction, they're more likely to believe that you're going to throw that shot. So so I want to off-time the offside shot. So I throw the snap, and then I throw my shoulder like I'm going to throw the snap, and then throw the shot offside. That kind of thing, where you convince them that it's an emotion that you do all the time.
Your Gregor actually dip your shoulder down. When he does this, he go like this. But he does this, that thought goes down there. But he actually purposely dips that shoulder down to the face. Yeah. And he brings it down quite a bit. I
feel that the shoulder fake is more convincing because it's a physical motion that people recognize pretty easily. Eye fakes are a little bit more subtle, and they don't work. It's one of those things that the eye fakes don't generally work against lower level fighters because they won't know what you're looking at. But like, I don't know, if I'm fighting a righty and maybe his guard is a little bit more open, so it looks like he's leaving the onside open. So I'll look at it, and so you're thinking and believing that you're going for a shot. Maybe I'll throw that shot, but it doesn't kill him, and then I look, and then I immediately come to the offside. So to convince your opponent that you're going to go into the one location by looking at the target, throwing a shot at the target, maybe twice, whatever. If it doesn't work, then you look and then you immediately go to the other side, someplace else. So what I was saying, convince your opponent that you're going to do one thing.
Question, do you do the off-timing shots where you start to throw the shot at one speed and then speed it up at the last second, or vice versa?
I do throw off-speed shots, but I do them by like rolling my shoulder differently or recovering differently. Like, for example, like a wrap, offside to wrap combo. Like, there's, the on-speed would be step, throw. But what I'll do is I'll throw the offside, and I'll bring my sword to the recovery. Instead of bringing it back immediately into the second shot, I'll throw it, and I'll roll my arm all the way around my head, and that extra half second or whatever to go off. So I don't. In general, like once your arm is moving, anything you do to your arm to like interrupt its motion like abruptly is going to kill power and take time. So I'm not going to try to show you body mechanics on how to throw shots. If you want me to, I will. But in general, you don't want to try to go through a fake or some kind of motion that's going to interrupt the motion of your arm abruptly. You want everything to flow from one thing you're doing to the next. So I'll throw the offside and I'm rolling my arm. I'm not trying to like stop and then, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something that I don't do this. So.
You don't want to have throw. You don't want to.
Yeah, that's a good example. So you don't want to commit such motion and try to stop it and then try to do something different. Because one, you're more likely to freeze yourself, and it takes, like I said, it takes energy and time. Did anybody have any questions, topics that they want to, anything that they want to mention? Or
this is part of what you were going to say anyway. I have a problem with blinding myself with my shields, and I think it's just a habit because I never used to do it, and then all of a sudden I'm like blocking, I'm stepping because I know where they're going to throw, and then I'm stuck there, and as soon as I drop it, I get hit.
It does, yeah, actually that works into, some of it works into the footwork that I was talking about. Like, I blind myself too. And I know, but the key, if you're going to blind yourself temporarily, because you know the key is to know what's going to be on the other side when you come out. So like, if I throw a shot and I step here, from here, I don't really see my opponent, I'm blinded by my shield. So I'm looking for either, I know that I'm going to go through a solid motion where I'm going to step, I'm going to look for the wrap, not there, I'm always under cover, so that even if I come out of my blinding myself by lowering my shield, I'm not in a position to get hit. So, like, I don't do like pump blocks, like when you raise your shield tip to block and blind yourself that way. Generally not a good idea, because for just the kind of reason, as soon as you come out, like, I don't know, like somebody has a strong snap, like Rick or something like that, will, you'll see the little pump, and as soon as you come out, they'll land. So the idea, like, you're gonna, instead of raising your shield to block, dip block with your sword. Yes, I'm a lefty, so it might be a little bit different. I'm not sure what
That's all I got.
So dip the sword down. It's better. You don't blind yourself. You can still block.
Are you dipping into that while you're getting in position to throw, or because you can't do that while you're throwing?
Well, okay. Let me think. So if I'm a lefty again. So okay. So if I'm in guard, if somebody throws at like an offside at my eye, I dip block. Now the idea is that you're going to follow up with something, and you start coming in. So the whole motion would be I throw the dip block and I step forward and I roll my shield around to protect that angle. So boom, step, step. Now, depending on what happens next, I either just back out because I don't feel comfortable throwing a shot in there. But you want to try to be offensive step, you block, and then as you recover, I roll a trailing, I call it trailing lap. And if he's committed in that direction, and he's not ready to recover up, then I'll come down into that shoulder.
Did you have a specific as to when you're talking about where you get blind? Maybe if we see where you get blind.
Oh, yeah.
You want to start? Let's start. Yeah. Yeah.
What's been happening in the last
So you roll, when you step into that position, your recovery is to roll that leg back. And now basically you're refusing your right side away from your opponent's back. Now if he is going to throw another offside, by recovering there, your target is moving farther away from the strike. So that'll, that's one thing. And because if you know you're supposed to try to be defensive, when you take that step, your sword is up and ready to pick up. So just by
You're gonna come
until he dies, right?
at some point during an attack series, at some point you have to decide what's going to come next. Like the answer could be attack again. Sometimes when you do that, the notion of throwing good money after bad, comes into play. Where if you keep the attack, if you're in a bad position and you attack from a bad position, you're more likely to get hit. So, like when I step to that onside, there's a critical moment, and it happens every time where I make the decision to commit to the shot or to be defensive, because like Lucan is about to be in the back of the head. A lot of people are about to be in the back of the head. So at some point when I step to here, I decide that okay, the shot's good or the shot's bad, and when I go defensive, my block goes to the back of my head, and then it goes that way. It goes completely defensive, like abort the shot, abort.
What I would do is try to
well, yeah, the angles might be different with the kite, but yeah, so you take the step, and I just throw my sword back along my back. Because if they throw the offside and try to throw the offside in the back of their head as they're going by, then their shot is likely to be consumed.
But Mayor, I think what Greg was saying earlier about rolling out can also be an offensive advantage. So, well, because when you get in here, because I throw a shot the other direction, instead of up high, right? Because he's very hard, but you're going to throw a leg round. It goes down. So now you're rolling out like you say.
right there. They always rotate.
Yeah, no, you want to keep moving as you roll out as you're throwing.
When you get good to those motions, when you're a good fighter, you start in those motions, a good right-handed fighter isn't going to stay there. They're going to back out in the opposite direction and take your shot away. But okay, fine. They may have taken your shot away, but you're still alive. So
how much of your trickery goes into knowing your
Knowing your opponent's what?
knowing how they do?
When I was an up-and-coming fighter, I never spent a lot of time learning my opponents. My game was my game, and I was going to fight it, and it didn't much matter what my opponent did because I was just going to beat him. But what? Right. That was my mindset. The thing is that as you progress, knowing your opponent's general tendencies becomes more important. Like I know what Conrad's going to try to do as an opener. I know what Lucan's going to try to do, and so you can use that kind of information against them if you're fast enough.
But doesn't that lend itself to setting you up to be faked?
Well, If you're
okay, look at his great sword.
Yes.
Okay, so if I've not found Kenric yet since I moved here. Okay, so well, this is gonna be hard because that whole deal. But look at that side. That is clearly the side that he uses to hit people with, right? Now, if he's holding it up, you know, we're all, hey, nice to meet you, that's great. I'm looking at the top to see, is he a sniper? He's a lefty, clearly, so is he a sniper? If he is, then I don't want to be in his C range. I want to be in his A range, right? Now, you can see here, he fights everywhere. So now I'm okay? But, for most fighters, you can look at that. You can look at their shield and see. Mira's got hers taped on the corner there. She apparently uses it a lot to punch block, right? So without even knowing, meeting your opponent, you can look at their armor. You know, some guys have like tape marks on that side of their head. Guess what? Probably leaving that open, right? So there's ways to look at your opponent without even knowing them and sizing them up.
I mean, like if you're going into like a fight with a mid to high level opponent, if you fight slow for the first pass to see what they're going to do. Because you don't want to walk into a fight against a good opponent blind and you make a mistake by just attacking. It kicks me. Last Tuesday, I fighting the Prince of the Mid-Round world champion. And honestly, I've fought Palace before. And I know that he was vulnerable, or this was my thinking, was that he's vulnerable to a fast offside. So I mean, when I fought pickups against him, that's what I always hit him with. So, okay, so I'm going to go out and I'm going to throw my offside. Well, what? I got hit. And I'm like, okay, that didn't work. And so, knowing what your opponent is capable of is important. Fighting slow and you don't know to see what they're going to do. Of course, the vulnerability there is that if your opponent's that good, he's going to just whack you with his opening shots and it doesn't matter. You have to be kind of careful with that. But I do have a book on people in my head, but mostly just from fighting everybody a zillion times, not because I've done it twice.
Do you change that a lot in singles versus melee? Well, when you're coming up against somebody in a tourney, singles, versus you come around the corner and there they are in melee, you approach it differently.
Melees are a lot more generic because numbers and position tell in a melee where that stuff doesn't come into play. So if my side has position on it doesn't matter if you're stepping on resident or anything. You might be able to survive a little bit longer, but if you're a guy 5-on-1, if 5 has any idea what they're supposed to do, just 5-on-1. I've come across, I'm trying to think of these. I've come around the corner. I came around the corner once and I saw it go hard. And I saw it was the King of the West and Bahar is at the end of their line. And I'm like, well, I think you're gonna go into the West. And so I targeted Bahar and he was a dude, but he was on spear. So I mean, the thing in melee there, skill levels not important. Weapons might be like if I turn the corner, I see this guy and he's going to throw it with a sword and shield, then I probably might try to avoid him because I know that it's going to take time and I want to beat him. Where I'm going to, if I go up and I turn the corner and I see Darius with a pole arm, well, he's pretty good with the pole arm, but I'd rather go into Darius than I would go into Lucan with the shield.
Okay.
Any other questions? Ideal thoughts about your specific situation?
I've tried some of these golf one. The problem I have is I'm a big guy, obviously. I play very solid. So the biggest thing I'm having is that I'm putting too much thought into where to shift the weight to move the foot.
Well, some of that if you went to the conditioning class, this all kind of plays into what Matt was talking about. But the pel work will help you because, if you're more static. Look at Brendan. He's a big guy and he doesn't move around a lot. So he's fighting Lucian style of cut. Well, how is he successful? because he knows that in certain situations you have to react a certain way, and how do you do that by practicing it 100 times. And it's like, and then, you know, your imagination can help you by pretending your fellow is an opponent attacking you what do you do if he does a certain thing? Step. Or what do you do, roll, refuse death, or whatever. But by doing it again and again and again and again, you'll get to the point where it doesn't matter. Your body will just know what it's supposed to do.
Have you ever worked with a swinging pedal or just static?
I have a 4x4 sunken in concrete.
Because there's a lot of routines with swinging pedals that you can do also for movement. So if you get it going, and then you're kind of trying to keep with where it's at. There's a lot of things with the swinging pedals.
When I do a pedal workout, what I do is I used to have an Excel sheet, and it has I have like a list of all shots, the shot combos that I was working on at the time, and then I would just have like how many, 230. Now the thing is that pedal work, like repetitive motion, will only help you if you pay attention to your form. You can't just go through the motion willy-nilly and think that's good enough. You have to think about like where your body is, throw the shot correctly, mechanically. If you just like, and you're so tired that you can't even get the shot, you're gonna stop. That's the point when you're not stop your practice. Let your arm rest at least, and before you go back. Did I help answer your question? So the idea is, well, don't be predictable. Try to work fakes in. Be receptive. Get your opponent to believe that you're going to do something else. Practicing the motions, like by practicing the motion repetitively, when you put yourself in a position where those fast transitions from one step to the other is important because it's a big that you're trying to throw, it'll become so natural that it'll detach. And it won't be any time.
It's very nice when your game kills your opponent before you tell them to do it.
Yeah, well, that goes into a philosophical question. There's a video, there are a number of videos on YouTube that you can use that help you learn stuff. One of the ones, there are two that I like, and one because, I'm not sure why, because I don't do anything that's in the video. Sir Brand, like on Tier, I don't know what, over the last few years, on Tier's had like major dudes from around the known world go out to teach.
Yeah, Sport of Kings. I'm from Ontario.
So like I thought Lukian did a series, Branos did a series, Sean from Artemisia did one. Sean, that one was more philosophical than actual technique. There's another video that Uther from the West put out. And basically his idea is that you should always be able to throw any shot from any position. So like he'll, he has areas taped out on his pedal, and he'll practice throwing combos from one area, one zone to the other zone. So this zone, this zone, this zone, this zone, this zone, So that basically, no matter where you are in the fight relative to your opponent, if you see a target, you'll know how to throw the shot, how to get your mechanics to throw it, your body to throw a shot from how to kill them, regardless of where you are. I mean, if you're really good from throwing shots from a static guard position, well, and that's good.
Actually, Duke Fenn has a pedal that he drilled 1.5-inch holes all over it, and he takes 2 pegs and he puts it in, and the goal is to get that 1.25-inch sword between those without knocking the pegs out.
Yeah.
So it's extreme accuracy.
If anybody does shooting, gun, targeting, whatever, I mean, like I use the philosophy when I do archery, but it's basically aim small, hit small. If you look at, a target, if you're looking at the leg, then you're going to be shooting for the leg. But if I'm aiming at a small target like a slot, so like if you're practicing on the pedal, what you can do is just take a small target and practice hitting that target again and again and again. It's kind of funny because it flows into one of the things, like I don't generally throw at a target, I throw through a zone. So except for that offside. The offside, you know, I mean, the flat offside is kind of like my thing. And so I like being able to hit people when they're like Griffith is the best, because if I can ever get it, it's not that I get it often, but he has a really tight guard. And when I can fire the shot through that zone, it's somewhat satisfying. We're kind of going off topic here a bit, but you know, I was taught that, like going somewhat back to what I was saying about Luther, like I don't fire at like a specific point on the target. I break my opponent up into 6 zones. So you have left and right, and then upper, mid, and lower. And the idea is to throw a shot from one zone. So you're targeting the zone. So I'm firing in whatever I hit, but the idea is not to worry about, you don't have to worry about firing at, like, looking and recognizing a thigh, and I'm going to throw it at his thigh, and that takes time. No, I'm just going to throw the shot low. I'm going to throw the shot through the zone. And if I hit him on thigh cool, if it glides up into the hip, that's fine, but the idea is to fire it. And you can do that on a tell too, just by, when you're practicing throwing shots from zone to zone, you know, just don't think about hitting a specific thing. That's not really what this is supposed to be about. So, I mean, hopefully I've given you some ideas on things you can do to increase your game. I mean, nothing is going to substitute for armor time, but hell work will go a long way to fixing your issue. So.
When you talk about armor time, I'm assuming you're talking about actual sparring, or are you also talking about doing armor drills one-on-one opponents?
Well, I mean, I'm talking about mostly like sparring and practice. I mean, I was never one and wasn't really taught that I'm not a drill fighter. I mean, I do my practices on my tell, and that's kind of like drills because you're doing the same thing 30 times. But I'm not, you know, I don't do practice.
Yeah, it's not like what Bellatrix teaches, where you're doing, you know, one-on-one, going through slow drills all the time.
You know, Paul Bellatrix, I mean, I've integrated some of what he does into my fighting, especially with my offside. I mean, I don't throw them with the single hip return thing that he does, but it did modify my mechanic based on what he did. Anybody have any questions? Thoughts? What time is it? I don't have any idea.
About 8 minutes.
Trying to think. There's a, okay, this isn't what this class is supposed to be about, but I'll add it as a bonus topic. The wrap. And we talked about Bellatrix. If you're going to throw, I mean, a wrap and offside. Offside, because it's well, especially with my guard where my shoulder, my goofy leg is forward, the wrap, or the offside rather, is basically, it's hard to deliver with a lot of power unless, what I try to do, and I'll try to do what I do with the goofy leg forward is you fire the hip and the shoulder first, and then once you're basically, you're not throwing your hand at the target, you're actually throwing your elbow at the target. So when you throw the elbow, that pulls your hip and shoulder into the shot. And so from here, it's a spring. So like you're trying to push your elbow out. And so basically you copy that your shoulder comes out. And so it comes, so it's like, so my arm comes out and it's unloading the spring onto the shoulder. From a sort of like back, it's throw it back, throw it this. You know, you just roll it into the shot. But, and you'll notice that my hand comes up, like, by lifting the elbow, it pulls your shoulder. So, and that shot will never be as powerful as like a Kenric snap kind of basic shot, but it's plenty powerful to kill. And the other, you know, if you're moving with it, so like step behind it, your weight coming behind it is going to add, you know, double the force behind it, and you can kill people. And the wrap, the Brazilian way, well, the white way to do a wrap, and Paul Kenric explains it in one of his videos, but the idea is, the secret that kind of gelled it for me is that you have to think about your, back if you're carrying a shoulder pattern, and the idea is that you want to carry the service pattern up until the end and then double, right? So really the only difference between a wrap and a snap is, so snap or a straight shot in here, and then you get to the point and roll it slowly. If you try to do something like bring your arm out and pull it through, one, you're telegraphing what you're doing, and two, you're going to wrench your hold. Yeah, so when you throw the snap, yeah, you just, so it's a straight shot, and you just think of it that way.
Yeah. And it has the advantage of if your hand is past your target, it's going to come back in.
And you know, here in terms of like wrist leader, J-hook, those are all variations on the wrap. You know, I mean, but to me, the primary difference is like the wrist leader is just what I call it, is a hook, a wrap that goes farther away. So when you throw the shot, your wrist is forward, so that when you come through the target, like the wrap, your wrist is past the target, so it goes over. But from farther away, the same shot is like that, so that your wrist is forward. And a J-hook is just a wrap that you throw at the ground, and then you hook it up, so that when you roll the wrist over, the shot, I don't feel it, but you roll it up, so like, Scorpion, I mean, what I feel, my scorpion anyway, is when I step here, offside on an opponent, I throw the shot up, and then wrap it down onto the shoulder. So, yeah, like a wrap.